Hi friends, hope you are doing well. I'm Dr. Ganguly. Welcome to my channel. So today I'm going to discuss 5 secrets for your PhD defense, and these secrets are going to help you do well in your PhD thesis examination. So this examination typically takes place at the end of your PhD. So what you need to do, you need to get in front of a committee and you need to make a presentation and defend this presentation, and at the end of this process you are awarded the PhD degree. So let us begin. So the number one point is that put a lot of effort into making your presentation. And what happens is that students essentially spend years of work to come up with their thesis, and the thesis is a 100 to 200 page document, and then you need to reduce it into a set of slides. So you need to make something like 30 to 40 slides. You need to make a presentation of about 45 minutes or so. So in many cases what happens is that during your PhD presentation you will be asked a lot of questions while the presentation is still going on. So you need to factor this in, and so what will happen is that your 45-minute presentation may actually become an hour long. So this is something which I have routinely seen. So don't make more than 30 to 40 slides, because then you are going to have problems. You are going to simply have too many slides in your presentation. Now I would say that you can divide your entire presentation into 5 parts. So there is the introduction, there is the motivation, formulation, results, and conclusion. So essentially this is very much like a typical thesis or like a paper, and each of these parts is of course going to be very important. Now this of course is the main issue, is that you should put in a lot of time in your presentation, because I have seen some candidates who have just rushed the presentation in the last week or even in the weekend before their thesis exam, and most examiners can figure out that this has been a hastily put together set of slides, because what is going to happen is there is going to be lack of coherence among the slides and the person is going to tend to ramble through this presentation. Now number 2 point is that do a lot of practice, and I would say practice minimum of 3 times if not more. So the first set of practice is going to begin in your own room, or you can come to the lab during the evenings or the weekend, and you can simply practice the presentation from your PowerPoint slides. Now after some time, once you are familiar with your slides, you can have a mock presentation with some of the grad students who are there in your lab, and then you can have further mock presentation with your thesis advisor being present. It's very important to make sure that your advisor is in line with your presentation and he agrees with your presentation completely. Now some students sometimes send a presentation across by email to their supervisor, but what happens in many cases, the advisor is very busy in teaching or doing research or writing grants, and so he or she may not see the presentation very well. So make it a point that you have a mock presentation with your PhD supervisor actually present. Now number 3 point is that listen to any questions very carefully before you reply to them. So what's the difference between a presentation for the thesis and the conference is that many examiners are going to ask you questions during the presentation itself, and so you are going to be suddenly jarred from your presentation and you'll have to turn to the examiner and answer these questions. So one of the tactics is to slow down, take your time, take a deep breath, listen to the question carefully, and then answer them. Because remember, this is an exam, so you have to answer those questions very carefully. You should not just try to reply to these questions in a very casual manner and move on with your presentation. So that's a mistake some new researchers typically make. So reply after a lot of thinking, and don't take any criticism personally, because remember that the role of the external examiner is to critique you here. Now sometimes they are going to ask you very difficult questions or questions which are often impossible to answer directly. So some examiner may ask you, why didn't you do an experiment to verify your results, or why you use theory X, why didn't you use theory Y. In these cases you can always mention that of course that is something which is possible, and that you are going to do it in a future work, maybe sometime down the road. when you are in a different position somewhere. Maybe if you get a faculty position, you are going to address this topic, and also you are going to add it as a future work part of your thesis at the end of the conclusion. So very often sometimes students get very perturbed that they are being asked very direct and probing questions, and they get upset that the examiner is telling them that they have not included something in their work. The only point examiner is trying to make is that you should keep some of these things in mind and you can address them in a future situation. Now, fourth point is know your research area very well, and what this means is that you need to know the people who have worked in your research field and the papers they have published and the journals where they have been published. And this should come out immediately if you are saying some particular statement. For example, uncertainty quantification has been used in this problem before, and the question is who has used it. You should immediately have an answer at the tip of your tongue that has been done by, for example, Chang and Smith in the Journal of Composite Materials in the year 1997 or in the 1990s. So this shows that you are at the top of the literature of the field, and at this point of your life people expect that you know more about the topic than they themselves do, because remember, you have been spending 3 to 5 years in doing this PhD problem. Finally, point number 5 is that do not blame your PhD supervisor for any issue. So if you are pointed out some gap in the thesis, you have not done some experiment, maybe you have not used a certain theory, don't say things like my supervisor did not think an experiment was necessary, or that my supervisor did not think I should have used this theory. You need to take responsibility for your own actions at this point. So remember, the PhD examiners are not just judging your work, they are judging you. So one of the things you need to show as a PhD student or a PhD person is not to take criticism personally, and always to turn any question or query as a possible source of doing future research. So this mindset will make sure that any questions which are sent to you are taken as a very useful problem for the future. So remember, when you become a faculty or a researcher, all these problems are prospective problems for your future student or for your future employees. So look at all problems as a good deed they are doing to you if they are presenting you with any problem. So these were some points I had for you today about the 5 secrets which will help you do better in your PhD thesis exam. And if you have any particular points, make sure to write in the comment section below, and certainly like and subscribe to my channel, because that's something which YouTube likes and the YouTube algorithm also likes that. So I'll end this video here, and I'll see you in a video sometime soon. See you then.